Good morning, guys. I hope everyone's good and you've managed to enjoy the beautiful weather over the weekend. So this morning I'm going to be joined by Kajal, who is mummy to Viray and also Aurelia India. Sadly, Aurelia passed away at 23 weeks gestation. And since then, Kajal has used her platform to speak out about stillbirth, and she's been amazing. So I'm really honoured to have Kajal join us to share her journey. We've had lots of questions, things come in for Kajal, so hopefully we'll get through everything. Hello, how are you? How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm not.
Shaking.
What's that?
I'm shaking.
Oh, bless you. Don't worry, it's fine. It's just the same as doing Insta stories or whatever. So don't, and just go at your own pace. There's no pressure to say or do anything. Yeah.
Got the
Thank
tissue box ready.
oh, thank you so much for joining, Kajal. It's honestly, it's an honor to have you and to share Aurelia's journey and everything that you guys have learned. And I know your story has touched so many people, me included. So do you want to give a little bit of an introduction to yourself before we start?
Well, there's nothing exciting. There's nothing particularly exciting about me, but I'll maybe start with my childhood because I had such a lovely upbringing. I was actually born in Hendon, but when I was 5, my dad got the opportunity to go and work in Gloucestershire through
Oh, wow.
England. And obviously it was a huge decision back then because back then families lived together or they lived really close by.
Yeah.
That whole thing of uprooting just a little unit and moving something so far away was, was a really big thing then.
Mm.
But he thought, I'm going to do it because I'm going to give my family a better life. So off they went hunting for houses, and they found a lovely property in the middle of this tiny little village, no shop, very rural. And we took our grandparents with us. And so
lovely.
when I was off, we went. So there was no other Asian people around there. We were the only Indian family. So there were lots of complications as well. Growing up, you just want to be normal, right?
Fit in.
So living with elderly grandparents, being young, trying to be cool and kind of fit in around us, there was often some frustration. But looking back now, I'm so grateful for living with my grandparents because it taught me so much and gave me this foundation that I think I only appreciate now. Growing up and back then I didn't get it. I didn't get how it would help me in later life, but actually it's formed part of who I am. So it was lovely, lots of space. We were outside all the time. My dad never let us have Sky TV, so when I did go and people were talking about all these programs, I was like, no,
don't know what you're talking about.
We never had any of that. There was no such thing as takeaway. There still isn't. My mum and dad still can't get a takeaway.
Wow.
We just had a really simple, nice life. And I remember, distinctly remember being sat on the stairs, watching my mum make the roti and thinking, I want this life. I just want to get married. I just want children. This is all I want. I never really had at that point aspirations to become anything more than a mother and a wife. That was the thing that I wanted the most. And then obviously grew up about 16, started discovering boys and what's this feeling? And actually growing up, I was quite a chubby girl. I've seen it now, but looking in the mirror, I never looked and saw a chubby girl. I just saw myself. There was
love that.
Yeah, the stigma that girls have now, what's out there in the media. I don't know about you, but I didn't feel it back then.
Do you reckon it was also because you didn't watch a lot of, because you didn't really have access to the, Sky, all those channels, the typical, I don't know, I don't even remember what we used to watch. I used to watch Sweet Valley High and, you know,
Yeah.
Saved by the Bell and things like that. Do you reckon that also played a part in actually, I'm not exposed to that many
Yeah.
different types of women. I don't need to feel insecure about it. I love that. I love that you just looked at it in the mirror and thought, this is
I look
just who I
fine.
am, and I love it. Yeah.
It's now that I'm really hard on myself. I'm
Oh,
like, you know, put on a pound, you can
yeah.
so see it. And actually back then I was so much bigger and didn't feel it. So I had this real innocent happiness about me, you know,
Yeah.
so lucky. And then so one day my cousin was getting married, and very close to my cousin still, Ket, and they were having a sanji. So, you know, off we went all dressed
Yeah.
up, and in walked this boy, and he was the nephew of a friend of my cousin. And I
Yeah.
distinctly remember being stood next to my cousin, and I said, I'm going to marry that boy. You mark my words, I'm going to marry that boy.
Yeah.
And anyway, we did get talking and kind of kept in touch. And we, you know, back then, no mobile phones, we sort of landline numbers, and we used to sneakily call each other. This is now,
Yeah.
by the way, for anybody who is watching. We used to
We'll be there.
call each other on the landline. And obviously, at one point, you know, our parents got the bills and thought, you know, what is this number that keeps coming up? And I think at one point, you know, my current mother-in-law rang my mum and said, you know, I'm really sorry, but this number just keeps coming up on my phone. And, you know, they had this little chat, and anyway, they couldn't figure out who each other were, and kind of put it to bed. Anyway, Nick and I kind of lost touch. I went to uni, and, you know, he went to uni. We lived our lives. And then I remember leaving uni. It was my last day, packing up my hauls, and I was going to live with my fae, my boa. And I'd been thoroughly heartbroken by another horrible boy.
Yeah.
I was really depressed, and I remember going to her house, getting into her bed, and just not wanting to face the world.
Yeah.
Back then, what did we use? MSN Messenger.
Yeah, that's probably when I started.
I got Nick on my MSN Messenger, and I thought, oh God, men, you know, I was so yeah, leave me alone. You know, I don't want to know you. You broke my heart all those years ago. And then he was like, please, you know, give me 5 minutes of your time. And I was like, fine, you know, you've got 5 minutes. And that's
yeah.
Well, 5 minutes turned into a 2-hour conversation, turned into a planning a date. And then the rest is history. So I married the boy that I saw when I was 16.
So strange, Kajal. Your story is actually really similar to ours. It's really strange. Yeah, we met again through family, as in, you know, my sisters saw him and they're like, oh my God, you've got to see their cousin. He's so good looking. And I was like, oh, whatever. I was well bad back then. And then we went to another function and they were there. And I was like, oh my God, he's really good looking. Like, you know. And then his mum had said that, you know, I'd look no further than my own. My mum, they got into this, you know, how Indian mums do, talk about, has your daughter got anyone or whatever. I was sitting right there. And Breatham's mum said, oh, I'd look no further than my own son. And I was just like, I kind of like her. She's quite, you know, out there. Anyway, yeah, he added me on MSN and I was so cocky. I was just like, oh, what do you want? And it didn't work out back then. And then 4 years, I think it was 4 years later, we ended up reconnecting. Thank God for MSN.
No, MSN literally brought us together with our husband.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting.
It's so funny. We've always had connections with things, though, haven't we?
Yeah. strange things.
So then we were kind of just dating and hanging out, and then I remember we went for dinner with his parents and his like immediate family, and it was the first time that I'd met his parents before, but it's the first time I was meeting like some of the extended family. I got on, I still, you know, I'm really close to my mother-in-law. I was so close to my father-in-law. He has sadly passed away now, and we might come on to that later, but he was such a brilliant man, and really miss him. And this day in particular, he was sat there drinking, you know, on the I think it was whiskey on the rocks, and the more he had, the more I could feel gearing up to having a conversation with us in front of everyone. Basically was like, oh, you know, you're wasting time now. Just get married. You know, why are you just courting, basically?
Yeah.
And I remember Nick feeling like, I don't want to have this conversation in front of everyone. And often to the toilet, you know, he always leaves me when I need him the most.
Yeah.
With the table full of his family, thinking, I can't say anything because they're not.
Yeah.
Anyway, it all got a bit awkward in the end. We finished our meal, we all went our separate ways. And I remember Nick just feeling frustrated that, oh, why does my dad have to have that conversation in front of everyone?
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't really hear from him the rest of the night. And I remember sending him this. Don't need to get married. Like,
Yeah.
do it. There's absolutely no pressure. Anyway, about 3 a.m, I remember him ringing me and saying he'd been driving around and obviously doing lots of thinking. And he said, well, why don't we just do it? Why don't we
Oh.
That was my proposal.
Yeah.
Initial proposal. I was like, yeah, okay. Let's go for it. And then his parents came over and spent a weekend with us, and my parents like took them out, and, you know, to see the countryside. My dad was ever so proud of where we lived. And,
Oh.
And that was kind of the beginning of the end, really. We just engaged, and then a couple of years later we had this sort of fairy tale wedding in my back garden, which was my dad's dream, because he said, I remember him saying, my dad telling me this story, that, you know, we've moved back to the village, and back in the day, years and years ago, that's how girls got married. Home. And so we tried to recreate that in
I love that. Yeah.
And it was really magical, really beautiful wedding. It was everything. I think I was fairly relaxed. I only really cared about what I wore, and quite happy to leave the rest to my parents. And it was a really lovely day. And yeah, that was kind of how I ended up London side.
Through marriage. How long ago did you get married?
Oh God, it'll be 9 years this year.
Wow. So when did you decide? Did you know you guys always wanted children, or did you kind of?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was always a big part of both of us.
Yeah.
When I first got married, we moved in with my in-laws. It was something that I think we all kind of wanted. I wanted to build a foundation with them, which I think you can only do through living together.
Yeah.
Equally, I also knew I wanted to have
your own space. Yeah.
And I think all the women listening can probably vouch that men won't grow up until they've got their own set of responsibility. And I knew that I wanted to like raise children in my own home. You know, it was just something that we talked about and we knew was a thing.
Yeah.
We lived together for about 18 months, and it was a really happy 18 months.
Yeah.
With me, my sister-in-law. I say my sister-in-law, but she is more my sister. Mum, dad, and yeah, it was very happy. And then we found our own place and moved to Berkshire, so it wasn't too far. My in-laws are in Hayes. And then we moved in March 2013, and by January 2014 I was pregnant. It was a very happy accident. It wasn't planned at all. And you know, we were thinking, oh my God, we've just moved in, we've just got a mortgage. You know, back then we weren't as comfortable as we are now, because you're just starting out in life.
Yeah, and it's all new, isn't it? You're getting used to bills and things like that.
Yeah, and I think, on earth are we going to manage a baby? And I was very, very naive in my pregnancy as well. You know, I don't think I even considered miscarriage or baby in any form. In my head, you just get married, get a house, you have a baby.
It's just what happens.
Easy. I had a dreadful pregnancy. I was sick for 9 months. About 8 months, 7.5, 8 months. I was working in the city, so I was going on the train.
Oh gosh.
Like vomiting into bags. It was awful.
Oh gosh.
And then 9 months later, you know, along Vire came, and I mean, you know that feeling when they're first placed in your arms and you just think, oh, wow,
Yeah.
We've made this, you know, life from life. And I remember that feeling of, I felt this is what I was destined to do.
Yeah.
Finally, this is my purpose.
And
This,
kind of reconnecting to that feeling you had sitting
yeah,
on the stairs at your parents' house of
yeah,
that's what I want. And
100%.
yeah,
And I remember feeling this just sense of completeness, like
yeah,
this is my path. You know, I have, I'm in HR, and I love what I do. I love my job, but this was a completely different
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And you know, we didn't have much money, we didn't have anything, and everyone used to say your baby will bring luck, don't worry
yes,
about anything. And I thought,
yeah.
Jesus Christ, you know, that's it's never going to happen, it's going to be a nightmare. But actually they were right, and I say that to other people now. I think, oh my God, I'm turning into my mom.
Babies bring their own kind of, I don't
Just,
like the word luck, but they bring their own, yeah,
yeah, and I don't know, they just change things. And
yeah.
even when we had different months, and I thought, oh my God, how are we going to keep a roof over our head? We did, you know,
You did,
something
yeah,
just happened. And it's been, he's just, he is the light of my life. And after, when he was about, what, just after he turned 1, my father-in-law was diagnosed with lung cancer. And it was awful. He is like the center of the whole family, you know, everyone worshipped him. And it was a real blow for all of us, but especially for Nick, Prina, my mother-in-law. It was just, what? This can't be happening to us. You know, it happens to everyone else. You read
yeah,
in the paper,
yeah,
not happen to your own.
yeah.
And I remember them, Nick was going along to all of the kind of meetings that they were having with the doctors. And they had said to us, best case, he's got 6 to 12 months. And we remember thinking, oh, thank God, you know, we've got some time. Nick and I even talked about, do you think we should quickly have another baby? Like, give dad, let him see as much as he can. And then 6 weeks later, he was gone. In that time, whilst he was ill, we decided between Nick and I that Nick could move in back with his parents. I would stay home to give Vire a bit of normality.
Normality, yeah.
And I was still going there for a week. But obviously that changed the dynamics of everything. Nick suddenly had all this pressure on him, and
Mm.
we'd never faced anything like this. Nick's family hadn't really gone through death as such.
Yeah,
I had in my family, so I kind of understood it all, but this was also new for them. And then to lose your dad was just,
yeah,
it was horrific. And I felt, you know, he wasn't my biological dad, but he was my dad. And
yeah, I get it.
I felt sad for my future. They'd had all these years with him. I was just beginning my relationship with him.
Yeah,
He was being taken away. And more than that, I was sad for Vire, because Nick's dad worked abroad a lot when the kids were young. And I remember him saying to us many times, I missed out on my children. I've got a second chance. And
yeah.
why? You kind of look to God and you're like, why are you doing
Why?
this?
Yeah,
And we actually lost him the day he got diagnosed, because as soon as he knew it was cancer, he kind of just went mute. He stopped talking. And I thought he's so sad. You could see he was so torn apart. And it was one of the hardest things that we had faced as a married couple, as a family. You think, what about my mother-in-law? You know,
yeah,
my sister-in-law had just got engaged, and you just think, I was young myself. You know, it was really tough. And you know, 4 or 5 years later, we are as a unit so strong. It's been the making of our family, and I feel
yeah,
like dad somehow is guiding us, and he's brought us, he's gone, but he's brought us closer together,
yeah,
closer than ever. In in losing dad, there were some issues in the family, and I wasn't particularly liked by some people, and it's something I've been really about. It's something that my sister-in-law, mother-in-law, I have their full support, and they've been incredible to me. Obviously, I'm Nick. And you know, sometimes it takes something big for things to come to a head, and things did come to a head. I found it really difficult because I'd had this upbringing where I was adored by my whole family,
Yeah.
and suddenly I'm not quite full, and I'm like, I've tried really hard to make it,
Yeah.
you know, why don't you like me? And I had a breakdown, and I remember one day picking up the phone to the doctors. It was autopilot, I didn't even think about it. And I picked up the phone. I just said, I need to see a doctor. And I said, I think I'm having a breakdown. And I remember going in, Vire in his car seat, you know, he was just over 1. And I just remember crying. I couldn't talk. I just cried and I cried. And the doctor just sat there with her hand on my knee. And I probably cried for 10, 15 minutes. Felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
Finally talk. And I kind of opened up about how much I struggled with not being accepted by everybody.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't see that actually the people that really matter loved me and did accept me. I wanted to be accepted and loved by
everyone. Yeah, I get that.
I don't know, but I'm a bit of a people pleaser.
Yeah.
I really struggle when people don't like me. Now
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I really did. And she suggested I go on antidepressants, and I don't think there's anything wrong with antidepressants. I think it's like depression, anxiety, it's an invisible illness. If you need to take them, absolutely
Yeah.
take them. I felt like I needed to conquer this differently. I knew myself.
Yeah.
Said I think I'd prefer counselling, and she said, I was hoping you'd say that. It's the longer route, but it's in the bigger picture, it's the best thing.
Yeah.
So I started counselling. Obviously, in parallel, Nick's going into his own form of depression, trying to battle losing his dad, becoming head of the family. You know, he's got 3 women in his life, and he wanted to be a husband to his mum, a father to his sister, and obviously a husband to me, and a father himself. And you know, to this day, the women in his life he looks after incredibly well. He's got a beautiful relationship with his mum and his sister, and you know, credit to him. But at the time, it was a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
We're both battling our own journeys, and you know, how can you support each other in that time?
Yeah.
You know, it was so difficult. So we kind of fell apart to, in the end, come together, which we did.
Yeah.
We had to face our own demons.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
through the counselling, I got the courage to write and blog and talk about my experiences. And, you know, rightly or wrongly, I was very public and very open because I needed to do that for myself.
Yeah.
And it's one of the you know, this is all context to one of the reasons why we waited so long to have another baby, because how can you bring a child into a life,
this chaos?
exactly that, into this emotional chaos. We weren't ready mentally to have another baby. And before you know it, you know, 4 years have passed, and you think, I look at Vera, I'm like, my gosh, she's 4. And I wasn't ready in that period to have another one. But then slowly, as we all got ourselves back on track, and, you know, Nick got himself back on track, I did. You know, we had this lovely family unit, me, my mother-in-law, sister, you know, and my family are also incredible, but my day-to-day contact with these guys more so because. And then we decided 2019 we're going to try for another baby. Lo and behold, I was pregnant sooner than that. So by 2018 I was pregnant. And again, it was this, I was really innocent about it, and I thought, my God, and I distinctly remember thinking, God, I'm so fortunate. I've fallen pregnant again so quickly, and I'm feeling such gratitude for that, knowing other people out there struggle. And I thanked God. First thing I did, I was like, thank you, thank you for making this happen for me. And another awful pregnancy, worse this time. I was sick in hospital on a drip. I couldn't lift my head, without being sick. It was awful. And then I remember on my birthday at the end of March, it was the very first day I wasn't sick. And I remember thinking, oh, this is a gift from my baby.
Yeah.
Having a good day. And then, yeah, I kind of carried on. It was working, you know, it was all fine. And then it's kind of like, what is it, 25, 26 weeks, you start feeling proper movement
Yeah.
and kicks. And, you know, I didn't know the gender of the baby, and it sort of I fell into a pattern with the baby. We were in sync. You know, this baby was an early riser, so was I, but would go to sleep early too. And so the day that I knew something was wrong, it was very obvious to me. And I woke up, and my very first thought was, oh, I don't feel any kicks this morning. And that day we were going to pick my cousin up from the airport. He lives in America with his family. And I was saying to my cousins, his brother and his sister, oh, we'll pick him because we get some time with him in the car. We can spend some one-on-one time. We'll have brunch together and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh my God, we've got to get up, get to the airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just sort of carried on about my day. And again, it was that innocent thinking that,
oh, it's fine. Maybe baby's sleepy, or yeah.
Absolutely. Had a shower, got in the car again, didn't even think about it. Beautiful day. We went to this like lovely pub, sat outside, had lunch. There was a band playing. It was a perfect day.
Yeah.
Vire had his face painted into a green monster of all. And then I remember, you know, Nick was driving because I said he's got this awful car which I refused to drive, and I was massive, and so I just said, like, you can't drink because I can't drive.
Yeah.
I remember my cousin saying, oh, come back to ours, the football's on. And then I remember looking at my watch, it was 3 p.m. and I thought, oh my God, I haven't felt anything. And I thought, how have I let the whole day go by?
Yeah.
But it felt like it's just been about an hour, you know, it went so quickly. And then you think, how do you tell your husband in front of a group of people that something's wrong and we need to go to hospital? And I remember he was stood next to me, and I kind of just whispered, you need to take me to hospital. And I remember him saying, why didn't you tell me sooner? But it was because I just didn't think, you know, the day had just disappeared. We got back in the car, we were just silent. My notes were at home, we drove home. I knew though, I knew something was very wrong. I think I knew that the baby had gone. But I couldn't talk because I wanted to be wrong. And I was praying the whole time. I was willing God to perform a miracle. We picked up my notes, we saw my neighbour who, you know, he's like an older brother to me. And I remember just trying to be as normal as I could, and just got back in the car. And obviously we had Vire with us, had nowhere to, you know, didn't even think of leaving him with my neighbours. We just got in the car and got to Mac, and I just couldn't relax. I was pacing and I was thinking, my God, it's taking forever for them to call us.
Yeah.
And in reality it wasn't. It was about 10 minutes. And I went in and I just said, I haven't felt any movement. So it wasn't even reduced, but I haven't felt any movement. And they're so lovely, Mac, and they were like, don't worry, I'm sure the baby's just being a monkey. And they got the heartbeat monitor, and nothing came up. And she went, I'm just going to go and get the senior midwife. And I just thought, this is bad news. You know, meanwhile, pulling out the aprons from the side, putting on. You know, I'm thinking, I've got to keep composed. He's in the room. So in comes this senior midwife, and she can't find a heartbeat either. And at this point, I feel the need to be hysterical, and I can't. You know, my son is in the room, and I knew at this point, and the whole time Nick is going, don't worry. We heard the whooshing of the placenta, and that's it. You know, there's the heartbeat. And you know, as a woman, you know the difference. You know what's the heartbeat, what's the placenta.
Yeah.
They do sound quite similar. And I said, it's not. That is not the heartbeat. And in his heart, he knew. He just
clutching on.
Yeah, clutching to straws and doing what he could to make me feel positive. And then they said, we're going to need to scan you. So they hadn't confirmed anything at this point. And it was taking ages for a doctor to come. So we're just in this room on our own in limbo. And at this point, Nick's starting to get quite angry. And he goes outside. He's like, where's the doctor? You said we need to know. In comes this awful woman who I have made a complaint about since. And she was so rude. She just had her handbag on. She was her bedside manner was awful. And I wanted to kick her. At the time, I was like, I can't deal with you.
Yeah.
I need to know. And she just, put the gel on, scanned my stomach, and she just went, there's no heartbeat. And I just remember feeling, shit, what do you mean? What do you mean there's no heartbeat? This can't be happening to me. I don't think I was crying much at this point. And then they said it was routine to be scanned twice by 2 separate doctors. And I remember just being compliant, because what else was there to do? And then I got up. I don't know how my legs were working. I was wearing this jumpsuit, which I've thrown away now. I rolled it back up. I went outside and my legs just gave way. And that's when I just screamed. And you think, God, who screamed? I'm kind of looking around going, who made that sound? And I thought, oh my God, this is me. This is happening to me. I went forward and the nurses caught me. And they were crying. I remember I'll never forget the face of this one nurse. And she was crying. And they got me a wheelchair. And then my tears stopped. And they wheeled me through down this corridor. And the nurses just thought, I vaguely remember them saying, we're going to keep your son here with us. And, I couldn't even think about him. In my heart, I knew he would be safe. And he was such a good boy. I think he was probably with them for over 2 hours by the time we managed to get back to him. I went to be scanned. And it was a doctor that I recognised. He had actually scanned me when I was 10 weeks with Aurelia. And I remember at that appointment, he said to me, if I ever see you again, don't be offended if I don't remember you, because the only woman I ever remember is my wife. And I remember thinking, what a lovely man. So there was this immediate comfort when I saw his face, because I knew he was nice. And, rolled my jumpsuit down, he did the scan, and he put his hand on my leg and he just went, I'm so sorry, your baby's died. And I said, please tell me what the gender is. I need to know. And he actually isn't trained to do, he's a gynae specialist, but he's not been trained to do the sex of the baby, so he couldn't tell me. And I just, okay, that's fine. And I remember, putting my clothes back up, and then Nick and I walked following him down this corridor, and Nick was just holding me, and we were silent, and you just don't know what to think. And he said, I need to take you to meet the bereavement midwife. So off we went, and I remember sat in this room, which was, ended up being our delivery room, and talking to this midwife. And she was lovely and talked us through the entire process. I don't think I took anything in. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, I've got to give birth. That bit hadn't registered with me until I spoke to her, and I thought, oh my God, how am I going to do this, knowing I have to give my baby back? And then you just go home. There's nothing else to do. And I mean, if anyone could see us, we're walking through this car park. Viray's got a face full of green smudged paint, an apron, gloves. I mean, we were a sight. That makes me laugh now. I think if anyone had come before talking, you know, we're both crying. He's there, this green monster. And I remember saying to Nick, take Vero with you to pay for the ticket. I needed to tell my mum. And how do you tell your mum that your baby's died? How do you put it in a gentle way? And I couldn't. I just when she picked up the phone, I just went, the baby's died. And she was like, what? And I said, the baby's dead. You know, I was angry, and I needed to let it out. And I was like, you know, can't you hear me? The baby's dead. You know, I was mad. And he was crying, and she said, okay, I'm getting in the car, I'm coming over. And so then we got in the car. I remember going to McDonald's, getting Vero Happy Meal. Yeah, we came home, and I just said to Nick, I need to get in the shower. And I wanted to just wash it all away. You know, I wanted it to all go down the drain and for this all to be a bad dream. And I thought, my God, to tell Vero, you know, he was so excited. And he always said, Mummy, you've got a girl in your tummy. And he used to call her my girl. And he would say, how's my girl today? Oh. I was thinking, God, I hope it is a girl, because he'll be very disappointed. And that night, without much thought, don't think I even really spoke to Nick about it. I thought, I'm going to be honest with him and I'm going to tell him the truth. I didn't know if that was the right thing to do or not, but I thought in my heart it felt right. So I was putting him to bed, you know, this big tummy, and I'd always used to say, I can't lift you up to pick a book because my too big. And then I told him, I just said, and I was quite used quite blunt terms, because I think children don't understand terms like passed away, do they? They don't get that. And I just said, you know, Vero, Mummy's baby has died, and Mummy has to go to hospital this week, and you know, have to get her out and give her to we call God Jeje, and Jeje's going to come and get the baby. And you know, kids are so black and white. And he said to me, well, how will Jeje get here then? Thought, oh God, I wasn't prepared. He said, will he come by aeroplane? And I went, I think so. Yeah, I think he'll come by aeroplane. And he went, oh, and then he'll take the baby. And I said, yeah. And he said, you know, will I see the baby again? And my heart, you know, it just broke. And I again, I was just very honest, and I just said, you know, no, you won't, but we can talk to her, you know, I like to say about how we would incorporate this baby in our lives. And then I remember just sat on my sofa. My mum and dad have got a key to the house, so I heard them when they came in, and my dad was the first person to enter the room. And he was, you know, he's a big man, 6 foot, burly, doesn't really cry that often. And I was sat in the corner, and as soon as, you know, he saw me and I saw him, just burst into tears. Again, your parents fix things, don't they? They make everything better, and they couldn't fix this. And he just hugged me and, you know, cried. And I don't know how I got through that first night. It was a bit of a blur to this day. I don't know how I fell asleep. I don't know if I slept, you know, I don't know. I don't remember much about that first night. The next day I had to go back to hospital, and the midwives were incredible. They'd said, come at 8. They were there, door open. They'd given me another entrance to go through, so I didn't have to go through the maternity unit. And I remember they said, we've got to scan you one more time. It's just protocol at this hospital. I don't know if it's protocol at every hospital. And I thought, I don't need the scan to know. And I had to take this tablet to start softening my cervix to get my body ready for labour. And I remember looking at this pill thinking, I don't want to take you. You know, I want to keep you in my tummy forever. You know, that's how I felt. And I got very emotional before I took the pill. And I mean, they were so respectful. The nurses kind of all just stepped back, left the room. And I took this tablet. Before that, they had scanned me, this lovely doctor had come in. She scanned me, and I just said, please tell me what I'm having. I need to know. In my heart, I knew it was a girl. And she just said, oh, you're having a little girl. And my heart would have broken if it was a boy too, but I felt that I died in that moment. And I said, we had 2 names that we liked for a girl, and I said to Nick, she's going to be an Aurelia. That's going to be her name, and that is what she's going to look like. I know it. So then, took this tablet, and then I had to go home again because they just wanted my body to go as natural as possible. And so it's the bank holiday Monday I found out, and this was the Tuesday, and then sort of Tuesday night, Wednesday, my body started to go into labour naturally. You get the backache, and it's all the same stuff. Like, there's nothing that's different about stillbirth at all. And so just kind of went through the motions. I've been practicing hypnobirthing anyway, and then Tuesday and Wednesday I remember this need to just keep busy, and I thought, right, I'm just going to throw myself into planning her funeral, and I needed that, and that's all I did. So went to the funeral parlour, and it was so surreal being sat there and thinking, my God, I'm planning a funeral for my little child that I haven't even met yet. But it kept me sane for those 2 days. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have that plan. My God, I look terrible. Probably got scara for the first time. So, picking out this coffin and planning when I could have it, and it's obviously all depending on when I was going to give birth. We estimated it would be around the Thursday, so we thought it was safer to book the funeral for the following week. And the funeral parlour were incredible. I've never experienced such kindness through this whole process. And they didn't charge me a penny for anything. I wanted a pink coffin, which is normally an additional cost. And the owner of the funeral parlour, who I think has experienced the loss of a child himself, so I think these sorts of situations really hit him. They didn't charge us for the car, they didn't charge us for the coffin, nothing. So we kind of planned everything, and they were incredible. You don't realize how special people are until it takes a special kind of person to work in a funeral parlour to deal with the emotions of loss. And so for 2 days I remember planning that, and then Thursday I had to go back into hospital. By hook or by crook, I was going to have her. So went back in the morning, and you know what the first stages of labour are like. It's slow and it's progressive, and I'm so lucky. We were at Wexham Park, and they have a bereavement sort of suite as such for women like me. So I was away from screaming babies. I was away from mums that were giving birth to their living, breathing children, and that's such a godsend. And there are so many hospitals there that don't have that facility. So I again felt always have tried to look at the things that are fortunate in this situation. So met my 2 midwives, who were absolutely incredible. It's very non-invasive. There is a difference there because there's no real chance of added complications, and our bodies are amazing. They'd explained to me that my body has recognized that my baby is kind of scientifically dead tissue, and so my body knows it has to get the baby out. And so your body is already working with you. And I thought, this is the only thing I get to do with my daughter. I get to bring her into this world, and I want to do that as beautifully as I can, because this is our only thing. And so I was like, I've got to be strong, and I can do this. And I was kind of empowering myself that I'm going to make this a good, and I'm going to make this a positive experience. And the midwives are just, they're amazing. They said, you tell us when you want us to stay, when you want us to go. They took the time to get to know us as people. So for the first couple of hours, they just asked lots of questions about us, our life, and we just had lots of lovely chats. And I didn't realize it in that moment, but it really relaxed me and take me away from what I was about to go through. And my body was really, it was working, it was doing what it needed to do, and within 5.5 hours she was born. And I remember my one thing that I wanted was to give birth upright and be standing up or be on all fours, and they really helped me make that happen. And it's so clever, they had like a mirror underneath me, so they didn't need to keep checking me, they could just look in the mirror to see what was going on. And they said to me, she's just behind the waters, you've just got to give birth to these waters, she's right behind them. And I was really grateful front waters hadn't broken, because it was much it was less painful to give birth. I didn't have that same burning sensation. Sorry for anyone listening. And out she came, and I obviously couldn't see her because of the position that I was in. And they said, saying to me, Mummy, she's so beautiful, she looks just like her daddy. And they went, oh my goodness, her feet are massive. And I went, and they said, Mummy, do you want to hold her first? And although she couldn't feel anything, she wasn't alive, as a mother I was like, no, someone needs to hold her, give her straight to Nick, she needs to be held by one of us. And of course I wanted to hold her first, but when you're a mum, you're selfless and you don't come first, the comfort of your child does. And even in that moment, I didn't even think about her as not being alive. She was my baby, and I needed her to be with one of her parents. So Nick cut the cord, and when they turned me over, he was sobbing and just had this beautiful little girl in his arms. And I remember looking at her thinking, she's perfect. And thank God she doesn't have my nose. I've got really short nose. And her nose was just, she looked like a princess. And I'm not just saying that because she's my own. She had these big eyes. And my sister-in-law always used to say, if you have a girl, she's going to look just like me. And you know what? She did. She looked like my sister-in-law, my father-in-law, and a bit of Nick. And these bright red lips. And, you think, at just shy of 24 weeks, what is this baby going to look like? You just don't know. It's not fully formed, but she was perfect. Every fingernail was on there, every toenail, long limbs, long arms, long legs. And she was she was obviously small, but she was so tall that she didn't fit into the coffin that we had made for her. They had to quickly make another one because they didn't expect her to be so tall. And it was a really beautiful labour. And for anyone that's expecting, I would 100% recommend hypnobirthing. It really helped me. It changed my whole perception of birth, that actually it can be really enjoyable. And I'm so grateful that I can look back at that time as something positive.
Yeah.
And then they helped me dress her, and I remember going for a shower, and Nick and I hadn't spoken about how long we would keep her for. Eventually we've got to give her back. And I know lots of people bring their children home and they have photos, and I think in situations like this there is just no right or wrong. And I know that lots of people, how did you deal with this, what would you do? Your body and your mind will tell you, and you can't compare two people's stories. What's right for me, what felt right for me, will feel totally wrong for somebody else. And that would be my advice to anyone that has to face this kind of situation, is listen to your gut instinct, and it will tell you what to do next. And there was a real kind of unspoken bond between me and Nick at that time. And I knew I couldn't spend the night with her, because I think I'd kid myself into thinking, I heard her cry, oh my God, we're going to defy something. And don't get me wrong, when I was giving birth, I was willing us to be that miracle story in paper that, you know, woman beats odds and gives birth to living, but you know, I wanted to be that headline. And just before midnight, I read her that book, I Love You to, you know, the one that's I Love You to the Moon and Back, the two little and I never got that book with Virey, never read it to him, and and I sobbed as I read it to her, because I thought, this is the one and only time I'll get to kind of tuck you up and read you a story. And I remember the nurse saying, you don't have to give her back. And I said, oh, I need to. And I just could not start the new day with her. This was my day with her, and I couldn't start another one with her. I remember they wheeled her away, and I thought, God, how do we carry on from here on out? And believe it or not, so the labour room was connected to like a bedroom with like a king size bed, and they tried to make it as homely as possible, in a little kitchen, bedside tables. And I remember before we'd actually let her go, our family had come to visit, so just my parents, Nick's mum, and it was really lovely. You know, they called her and spoke to her and talked to her, and they've all got pictures with her, and it was happy. Believe it or not, that few hours we were smiling and we were making the most of her, because I didn't want to spend that time. I've got the rest of my life to kind of work through this grief and sit with my grief. In that time, I wanted it to be magical, and honestly, it was. I look back on these pictures and I feel happiness. It was the saddest situation, but I feel happiness that the grandparents got to hold her. I remember my mother-in-law saying, gosh, she looks like a dolly. I wish I could just pick her up and take her and leave my handbag in its place. And I thought, there was such love there and such unity, and you know, I wouldn't be where I am without those people in that room. And believe it or not, I slept really well that night. We had a little cuddle. We just turned over and we just went to bed. And I don't know, that was God helping me through, but I needed that sleep, because from obviously Monday night, I hadn't slept. And then the next day was so surreal, because I was walking out to my car with a box of memorabilia, things that they give you, these lovely little memory boxes, but I wasn't walking out with my baby. And then I think, although that was so tough, trying to live without her, starting that journey was even tougher. And we're almost approaching her 1 year. I never, you know, am I allowed to call it her birthday? Should I call it her anniversary? But I do call it her birthday. And I think, how have I made it through? And to this day, I think it's a combination of stuff. But it's been one heck of a journey.
And that's really moving, Kajal. I think it's so beautiful the way, in those, though we've been on different journeys, you know, there's aspects of our stories which we've spoken about so much, that the emotions and feelings that we felt, you know, are similar, or situations the same way, like with the in-laws and my parents, exactly the same thing, and our parents having to watch their babies going through that, and they just cannot fix it. It's heartbreaking, but somehow it makes you even stronger than you ever thought you could be. And actually, just you describing those few hours where the families came and you spent time with Aurelia, I can feel the kind of happiness and joy that you had during that time. And I think you are amazing for making a conscious decision that, no, I want to celebrate this time now, and I will cry later, or I will grieve later. I want to make that is amazing, because when Sergeant was born, the first 9 hours felt incredible until I found out. And I hate the doctor that told us. And she didn't do anything wrong, but I just felt she was coming in there to almost tell us. And I just felt like you're evil and I hate you. And I became so consumed with that grief that I didn't actually enjoy. Okay, I know he's here now and he brings joy now, but I just think and the way you've shared her memory and how her legacy continues, you're teaching us all the lessons that she's taught you is amazing. And I know Virey have carried you through the last year as well, but you are incredible. Honestly, I know when you're in certain situations, you have no choice. The only choice you have is to literally crumble or carry on. I know that, but the way in which you've done it is so graceful, and she's so blessed to have you as her mummy, and equally how much she's taught all of us is amazing. What would you say your greatest learning has been through all of this?
No, I think it's not to worry, and to really cherish happy times, because you don't know, we're all going to go through catastrophic things in life and it will look different for all of us. And I wish I hadn't worried so much about actually what to me now feels so insignificant. And I feel like a lighter person because of that. I think it will sort itself out. My mum always says to me, there's a solution to every problem. And I'm like, not always, mum.
Not always, mum.
But it's true. Whether it works out for the best or it doesn't work out for the best at the time, it will in the end.
Yeah.
And so I don't sweat the small stuff. And that has been my biggest learning. It's made me a nicer person. I think it's made me a lot more tolerant, because even things like, Nick and I know we didn't talk about this much, but Nick and I grieved and still do grieve so differently.
Yeah.
And at first, losing our daughter really brought us together. I think he was just my silent support. Whatever I wanted, I was quite vocal. I need this, I need photos of her around the house and I need them now, and I want this and I need that. Everything had to be about her. To this day I wear like feather earrings, I've got charms, I've got her footprint and handprint around my neck, and he was so compliant. He did whatever I needed. And then after a little while I was like, why aren't you crying? Why aren't you talking about her? Why aren't you being as open as me? And I struggled with that. We went for couples counselling, which was brilliant, because in that room, this third person helped me understand that how he's grieving, what he's doing, things I couldn't see.
Yeah.
That helped bring us together. And then it got to a point where he said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I completely respected that. And then afterwards I struggled, and I felt like I was the only one suffering. Of course he was suffering, but he was doing it quietly in his own time, away from me, because I didn't want to put any more on me than I was already dealing with. But I found that hard, and then it kind of started to pull us apart a bit.
Yeah.
And as the months have gone on, I can feel, we have come right back together again. I can see him being a little bit more open, even if it's just him saying, I had a really bad night yesterday and I felt really sad. And I know then we don't really talk about it, but that is massive progress from pretending like everything's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Kajal, I'm just going to restart it because it's just about to finish. I'll just restart it. Yeah. Guys, just join back onto the live. If you just request to join again, yeah?
Okay, no problem.
All right. I'll be back in a second. Thanks. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, I can completely relate to that. We also grieved in very different ways. We handled the situation so differently, and Can somebody just do a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Oh yeah,
Can you
yeah.
hear me, Kajal? I'm back. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, where I'm quite chatty and I want to talk, and when we first found out, he obviously wrote the blog post, and I thought, oh, he's fine and da da da, da. And then suddenly, like literally straight after, it felt like he'd written that, and it was like, here, take this. This is how I feel now. I'm pulling away from the situation, and I was so confused, and I was just like, do you not love him? Do you not love me? Are you blaming me? Like, what on earth is going on? I just didn't get it. And it's not only going through a situation. So for you, it's not only losing Aurelia, it's everything else that comes with it.
Yeah.
Um, and that was similar to when we had Sergeant. It was just the kind of, you know, it isn't only the fact that he's got Down syndrome. Okay, fine, we can try and accept that. It's this whole process and navigating through all this, and we were dealing with it so differently. And even till this day, I mean, I've obviously got the blog, and I'm rah-rah, and I'll say, you don't even really use like Instagram or Facebook to share stuff. And he's like, that's just not me. No, he's like, but I wake up every single morning, and the first thought that I have is, if I died today, would Sergeant be okay? And I'm like, whoa, that's deep. And he's like, yeah, but that's the way I deal with it. It doesn't have to look the same as the
Yeah.
way that you deal with it. And it's so true, but because you don't get much feedback, you're not really sure if, and you worry that they're forgetting, or that they're,
They don't feel.
yeah, they don't feel it. Yeah, but I think they do. They're just so completely different
Yeah.
fish. And
I,
it's amazing that you guys went for marriage counselling. I love that. I love that it opened both of your eyes. And do you feel that that helped with kind of bringing you back together?
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, because it helped him understand me and
yeah,
me understand him, and it helped us. We are probably more tolerant of one another now, most of the time, than we ever have been in our whole marriage.
yeah.
And believe it or not, lockdown has really helped us, again, most of the time. Because you have to communicate. You've got
Yeah,
absolutely no choice. You can't run away to work and ignore me.
yeah,
You've got to talk, because you're with each other 24/7. um and so we've learned a lot about each other. I mean, I'm so grateful to have gone through it with him. I
yeah,
imagine having gone through it with anyone else. Even the bad stuff, even the points where we've struggled and we've locked heads. Well, when we have come back together, we've come back together even stronger.
stronger.
And feel like I can explain things to him better, and he listens differently.
Yeah,
Um, but
I love that.
when
I think it's so important to recognize the growth and the learnings at the same time, because it's easy to forget about what you might have learned in the, in comparison to the grief that you're going through. But to be able to recognize those bits of beauty is amazing. How do you feel? So you touched upon the whole, members of the extended family. I've had the same.
yeah,
Um, and I really struggled with it, because I tried to, be nice to everyone, and, try and, I don't know, be friendly, and
yeah,
and it's true, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, or there's going to be some jealousy, there's going to be some haters. It's just part and parcel of life. But how do you think that everything you've been through now makes you view those same people?
oh,
How do you view that situation now in light of everything you've been through?
insignificant people, situations. And what losing Aurelia has done is brought to the surface all the amazing people that have supported me. You know, the community on Instagram, the amazing men and women that I speak to, lots of people I've met through you. I couldn't be more grateful. And actually, those few people that tried to bring me down and nearly won, who even are you anymore? And
Yeah,
I feel that my daughter, and through losing her, it's given me this strength that I didn't know I had inside of me, that I'm not that quiet little person anymore.
No.
With me, my God, mess with you, right? Or
Yeah.
I'll shut you down. Like, you don't,
Yeah.
those same people can't hurt me anymore. And I'm strong in the sense that I just keep relationships with the people that show me love and that I genuinely love back. And
Yeah.
and I'm happy, you know, I've got this sense of happiness now because I have this strength to
Yeah.
really do what's right for me and not worry about, oh, that might displease someone else, or that's gonna annoy someone else. I'm like, but it makes me feel like,
You almost find your voice, isn't it? Like you almost find this raging courage. That's like now, if I don't want to go somewhere, I won't go.
yeah,
If I feel that, I'm going to be made to feel, I'm going to feel uncomfortable, or I'm not, I'm not going to feel happy being somewhere. I just simply, since I've had Sergeant,
yeah,
something he's given me is that strength to think, F it, I'm not going.
yeah,
I'm not going. And actually, we've had the same. So sadly, when we had him, there were some friends that we thought were close that suddenly kind of were nowhere to be seen. And it's like, wow, really? Like, we invested a lot of time in you. But at the same time, there were friendships that just blossomed out of nowhere.
yeah.
And those, they're like gold dust, literally. And it's true, the people that we've met through social media, and just the amount of love and compassion, and just, when you know that actually it doesn't matter if those lot are kind of hating, there's probably people that are still hating even after everything, but that's fine, that's on them. But just, yeah, focusing on those. It's sad that you've had to go through all of this to get to where you are, but without Aurelia, you probably wouldn't have
I
found this
wouldn't,
strength,
you know,
is
you're,
the truth.
and you know what? The other thing which I forgot to mention was actually my sister and I were pregnant at the same time.
Yeah.
I think I might have told you this before, but she was, she ended up having her little boy the week after me. And I actually remember on the day of the funeral, um, Nick's mum, my mum and dad were on the back, and then it was me and Nick, and we had Aurelia's coffin in the middle, and then we were on the way back from the crematorium, and we put on breakfast and tea and coffee for the kind of, we only invited very few people to the funeral, but we wanted to say thank you to them for making
Yeah.
it to come. And we went to our local restaurant where we're there all the time, and we knew we wanted to have it there. And I remember, obviously, my sister wasn't going to come. She was heavily pregnant. And I remember turning around to my mum and saying, my God, where was Seva? He wasn't there. And then I thought, oh my God, she's gone into labour, hasn't she? And my mum sort of looked at me, not wanting to confirm it. And I remember thinking, right, I need to park this because I need to get through the next hour. I'll deal with this later.
Yeah.
And you think, my God, you'd see this play out in a soap, and you'd be like, what? That doesn't happen. Two sisters aren't pregnant together, and one loses and one takes her baby home. That's just so unrealistic. And then we got home, and I remember again going for a shower, and my mum came into the living room and she went, I've got to go. You know, she just buried one grandchild, cremated one grandchild, and she needed to go and be with my sister. You know, this is her first baby. And I said, you know, of course, like, go. And, you know, first baby, labour took a little while. And I remember on the Friday, all day, nothing was happening. Friday night, I went to bed and couldn't sleep. And at some point in the night, Bire had come into my room. I must have into like a deep sleep at this point. Normally, he crawls in between me and Nick, and this
Yeah.
he sort of was on the edge of the bed and he was clinging on me. And my phone was on my chest where I'd obviously fallen asleep. And I remember sort of waking up thinking, oh my, you know, how is he even comfortable on the edge of the bed like this? And then I picked up my phone and there was a text from my brother-in-law saying, it's a boy. And I felt, my very first thought was, God has put him to me, holding me, because he knew that I would need that comfort. And of course, my God, I love my sister with all my heart, and my immediate thought was, thank God he's been born alive, you know, thank God he's been brought to this earth safely. And if I'm being really honest, I did also think, thank God it's a boy, because I'm not
Yeah,
sure, as much
the
as I
same.
told myself I would absolutely cope if it was a girl. At the time, I'm not sure I would have. And the next day I said to my dad and Nick, take me to go and see her. She's my sister, and it's her first baby. I have to be there for her. I'm not sure how I managed, but I just switched off. I switched off what was going on in my life. And she lives in East London, so it was quite a long drive, and I was kind of gearing myself up to step back into a maternity ward, see babies and balloons. But I had to. I wanted to. You know, I had this deep desire to go and be with my sister. And I went in and I held him, and you know, my sister was great. She left. She was like, I'm just going to go, and I don't know where she went. She probably just stood somewhere in the corridor. She just wanted me to be alone with him. And I held him, and I've got pictures with him. And I did just feel pure gratitude. But I did get to a point where I just was like, okay, I need to go now. My body told me that was enough. But I'd seen him, and then I left. And then outside, one of my aunts that I'm really, really close to, she went, come on, let's go for a coffee. And she's also been through baby loss, you know, many years ago. But we sat downstairs and I sobbed and she cried. And you think, you know, all those years on, you still feel, you know, of course you still feel it. And yeah, I don't know how I did that. I don't know where that inner strength came from, but sometimes that adrenaline kicks in and it sees you through. It's like, you know, when your body's in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
It was like that. And I mean, what, he's nearly a one, obviously. He's one in just under a month. And it's been such a joy to watch him grow up, because he'll always remind me of her, because I'll think, of course, I think, well, wonder what Aurelia would have been doing. And watching him, I don't know, kind of makes me feel a sense of he's been part of my healing, if that makes sense, which felt impossible a year ago. But now looking back, and now where I am now with him, I'm so glad. I'm glad of the time. I'm glad that I have a little reminder when he goes to school. She would have gone to school. When he starts to walk, or maybe she would have done it. And I feel like I'll have a bond with him that is unbreakable.
How did your sister it must have been, I know from the twins and I, like, it was absolute turmoil for them as well. I mean, they tried to hold it together for me, but as sisters, it's a really unique bond, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did she kind of giving birth, and then also kind of her own sister's just lost her baby? That must have been tough for her as well, isn't it?
It was. I think she felt really guilty. And in fact, we spoke about this just the other day. And I feel guilty. I feel like what I went through ruined her, what should be have been the most magical time. But actually, she didn't want to shout about it. She didn't want people to come visit because she felt so awful. She didn't want to. That's all you want to do when you have your first baby. You want to show the world and tell the world. And she was so, you know, so respectful, whilst also she didn't stop sending me pictures, because she was like, no, you're my sister and I want you to be part of his life. But she went about it really gracefully. But I do feel bad for her, because it, you know, like you said, she's brought her baby home and I haven't. And she said to me when she went into labor, she was just willing. She was like, please don't be a girl, please don't be a girl. And that's that selflessness, isn't it? That love that between two
It's
sisters.
funny you're talking about the guilt of, kind of overshadowing that. So when I had Sergeant, I had my C-section, and on the floor above me, my sister-in-law was also in labour, so Britham's sister, and she gave birth to a boy 12 hours later. Um, so I completely can relate to every single thing you're saying right now in terms of just feeling guilt, because I felt like, Britham's parents, especially his mum, didn't take it quite, but she absolutely adores Sergeant, but it was, they needed to go through that grieving process for themselves as well, what they thought they were going to have and what they had. And I always felt really bad about, we had this maternity leave planned, and that was her first baby, and it should have been a really happy time. And she was just so, and I remember her coming upstairs to see me before coming, I can't remember what floor we were both on, but she came to see me, and I remember when she hugged me, and I was so beside myself. I said, he's got Down syndrome, as if, why are you even coming to hug me? Like, he's got Down syndrome. Like, I was so angry and just so, what the has happened here? I just couldn't understand what was going on. And she just hugged me and she said, I know, it's going to be okay. And I don't know why, I just took so much comfort in, even though she'd had her own baby and he's lovely, he's so adorable. I took comfort in her hug at that. I don't know. It was very confusing, and it still is very confusing, because I've got the constant reminder as well, even though Sadi's here, but it's that whole, he should be walking and talking and knowing his colours and all of these things, and he doesn't. But as time's gone on and I've kind of moved forward, and because the gap is so massive now, kind of stepping away from that. But yeah, it's strange, as in, even a member of the family, just so close, having a baby.
You couldn't look at it. Absolutely.
No.
And I think you just said something that really I think about quite a lot. There's such a difference, I think, between you never move on, but you do move forward. And I think they are two very different things.
Different things.
I think you and I, although different situations, you grieve for the future that you were meant to have.
Yeah.
The life that you were meant to have.
And
that's a tough thing to let go of. And I do find myself thinking, God, I wonder what it would be like if she was still here, or if things were different. You think about it, and then I'm like, but send it back out.
You almost have to bring yourself back to the reality. How has Virey been? I love watching your posts, and he's just so, he's so sweet, and that's credit to you, Kajal and Nick, for kind of making sure that you're keeping Aurelia's life and legacy alive. And you can see that he's got a really special connection with his sister. How is he doing with it? Does he ever ask, like, where is she, or when is she coming back?
Yes, we question a lot. So we talk about her a lot, and I do think Nick once said to me, do you think, is that okay? Do you think it's all right for us to be talking so openly in front of him and with him? And I said, absolutely, because she is his sister, and she always will be, albeit in a completely different way. And it's funny because he understands that she died, and he knows that her heart stopped working. That's kind of how we explained it, that she died, her heart stopped working, why she couldn't come home. And he'll often say, what is she up to? Do you know what her favourite food is? And he'll draw something, and he'll say, okay, Mummy, can you send this to Aurelia now? He kind of sees me as the link, this magic link that can send things to her. I remember once we went to Frankie and Benny's, and they always have the red balloons that they give to the kids, and he was given one, and he went, well, I need one for my sister. So he marched back to the front, he got another balloon, and when we went outside, he went, oh, can we send this to her? We need to send this to Aurelia. And he will often ask me, when's she coming back? And that's the bit where I think, oh, I wish I could say to you, she'll be here tomorrow. And then I just remind him that, oh, she lives in heaven now. And then we get all sorts of,
Yeah.
but in his head, she's with Dada. So,
She's safe.
yeah,
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've met lots of mums through Instagram that have been on this journey. I mean, Jay, you obviously know Jay.
Yeah.
He's been such a massive source of support for me. And I remember she drove all the way from Birmingham to come and spend the day with me and just talk to me and give me advice. And so I often talk to Vire about some of the other babies that
Yeah.
Aurelia is with. And so he'll always say to me, he'll mention their names and say, oh, I saw Aurelia with Lockie today, or with, you know, any of the other babies
Yeah.
I've talked to him about. And so in his head, they're together and they're having a lovely time. I think I have to be careful not to make heaven sound so fun.
Too much fun. Kids are so sweet, and their innocence just helps you kind of just carries you through, doesn't it? It's just so beautiful. Kajal, I've got a few questions for you that people sent in. We love you too, Jay, so much. She literally was such a huge support for me. Actually, I was reading through my book the other day, and I've written about Jay in there, and how I remember when she messaged me about Jasmine, and how she so badly wished that she was still here, and it didn't matter to her that she had Down syndrome. And that was a really pivotal moment in my mindset shift, because I was just like, there's somebody that knew that their baby, you know, had Down syndrome, and they didn't care. They still wanted them. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, she's amazing. I love her so much. Okay, so the first question is, I suffered a stillbirth 5 years ago. Did you have a funeral? Was it a burial or a cremation? Me and my husband had a burial because that's what we were told to do. Guess it's quite personal, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that thing of there is no right or wrong. Actually, in Hinduism, for children that are 5 and under, you are meant to have a burial. And I couldn't do it because, and this might sound awful, but I'd feel like I'd want to go there every day and dig her up and bring her home, because her body would have been there. And so for me, I absolutely knew cremation was the right thing for us.
Yeah.
And yes, we did have a funeral, and it was very small, very simple. And I don't think, you know, this person that sent that question in, don't feel guilty about the decisions that you made, even if you did listen to other people and you think, well, if I could do it again now, I'd do something differently. But you know, back at that point, you're so vulnerable that maybe the best thing was to just let somebody else make the decision. And the main thing that I would say to her is that you gave your child a send off and laid them to rest, and don't try not to think about, I should have done this or I should have done that. And you gave them a send off.
Yeah.
And because I remember when we were planning the funeral, at first I thought, I don't know if I want anybody there. And then I thought, no, why? No, I want people to honor her. I want her to be part of people's lives, because this is the only connection they're going to have with her.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed to walk in and see people that I knew. And I remember saying to Nick, I've carried her for 6 months. I need to carry her for the last time. And I walked in and I was holding the coffin in my arms. But that's what was right for us. And there is just no right or wrong in planning a child's funeral, not at all.
The next question is, did you go privately to find out why?
So we didn't, and we also didn't have an autopsy done because I couldn't bear the thought of her being cut open. And it was just personal that even if there was an answer, it wasn't going to bring her back. And I had a strong feeling anyway that there was no genetic disorder. it was my gut instinct telling me that. We did do everything else that we could do. So I had the placenta sent off, the cord sent, you know, everything we could do that was more non-invasive.
Yeah.
I did. And the results came back inconclusive, that there was nothing wrong with her or me or Nick. It was Mother
One of
Nature.
those things.
Yeah. And actually the consultant just said to me, "You're just very unlucky." Said to me, "Don't feel disheartened by the fact that you've got no answer." He said, "Think of it this way, that you've got nothing new to worry about, that when and if you want to try again, you can," not thinking, "Oh God, this genetic disorder might come up again." And I took real comfort in that, and I'm okay with I'm at peace with the fact that I don't know what went wrong.
Yeah.
So
I think it's that thing, isn't it? What you say, it's not going to bring her back, and if it's nothing that could impact future pregnancies, then I guess why?
was it gonna? Yeah.
What is it gonna?
What's
What are you gonna gain? Yeah. Okay. So somebody's asked, how are you doing health-wise and emotionally? How are you doing?
So health-wise, I was so fortunate that my body recovered so quickly, sort of within an hour or two after having her. You wouldn't even know. I couldn't even, apart from a saggy tummy, I was absolutely fine. And my body's continued to kind of get healthier and healthier. So I'm so grateful for that. Emotionally and mentally, it's been an absolute journey. And I actually went back to work after 8 weeks, and that was my choice. My workplace were incredible, and there was no pressure for me to go back. And something, again, my mum told me that my nana used to say was, "There's no busyness quite like the busyness of work."
Mm.
I thought, I'm sat at home and all I'm doing is grieving, and there's nothing breaking up my day. And in my heart, I knew I needed some form of distraction, and
Yeah.
I knew I needed to be sensible about it. So when I went back to work, went back part-time, eased myself back in, had some time off in September to sort of adjust Vera to school and everything. And that for me has really helped my healing journey.
Yeah.
And my God, the people at my work are an extension of my family. They have been every single one of them have been incredible and have been part of my healing. They all do things to fundraise, and they haven't been afraid to come and speak to me about it and ask me questions and come and give me I almost had a queue to have a tip system when I went back to work of people who wanted to come and show me some love.
Oh.
So I have good days and bad. There are some moments I burst into tears and Nick will just give me a cuddle, and I'll just need to have a little cry, or
Yeah.
a song will come on, or it will just hit me. But I'm also happy and I'm living again. And I think it's something you mentioned. It's that conscious decision. I've made a conscious decision to keep moving forward, and I take her with me.
Yeah.
I keep her alive in lots of different ways, whether it's blogging or talking, or I light her candle every day. I've still got your candle in
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still on a journey, but I'll be on this journey for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I choose happiness and I choose to live and keep going.
You are amazing, Kajal. Last question is, how would you have liked people to have reacted at the time? We didn't actually touch upon the wider family kind of reactions. What were people like? I mean, did you speak to many people? Was it quite was it not positive? That's the wrong word. Was it helpful the way in which people reacted?
In the beginning, if I'm being honest, I shut myself away. I
Yeah.
actually still have my WhatsApp notifications off, because then it's my choice to go in and read. And I've always been terrible at replying. You know yourself, it'll be 24 hours later that you get from me. So I shut myself off first, and I couldn't deal with messages and talking. Eventually, when I kind of came out of my little cocoon, on the whole, everybody was absolutely incredible. And you know, sometimes people would say things that I'd think, oh, why did you say that? But you know, it's coming from a good place.
That's the thing, yeah. People mean well, sometimes they just don't know what the right thing to say. And there is nothing that anyone can say to really give any comfort. But I think you are absolutely incredible, as you know, and I know there's so much love out there for you and your family. You have carried on Aurelia's legacy and memory so beautifully, and I know you'll continue to do so. You are an incredible mother. Like, I can just see how Viray is just such a special little boy as well. He's just, oh, he's so cute. And I think you're just an inspiration to us all. And I know you didn't choose this path, but the way in which you've dealt with it has been a choice. And, you know, you're incredibly blessed to have the family that you do as well, and they're equally blessed to have you. And you are so loved. I had a message yesterday from your friend Lou to say that she absolutely adores you and she's so proud of you. And I think we all feel like that about you. Honestly, I feel happy when it's so weird. I feel happy when I see your posts. I feel, obviously not the ones where you're having a tough day, those weigh heavy, because as a mother we can only imagine how it feels, but where you're sharing her memory and how you're keeping her alive, it just fills my heart. It is just, it's beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing your journey here, and I know you'll be helping so many other women. I'm going to share it on YouTube after the recording. I'll save it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. I know that there must have been some questions as well, which we didn't really get. Lots of messages of love for you, Kajal. You just know that we're all here behind you.
Honestly, it means so. I've kind of been trying to look at some of the messages coming through. I can see lots of hearts, and honestly, you guys have all carried me, you know, you included, Harps. You've been absolutely amazing.
Always.
So you completely understand, although a different situation, you get everything I'm going through. So do so many of the people listening. And my friend Lou, my God, that girl did things for me that it's unspoken. She went out and she bought the first clothes for Aurelia that I didn't even have to ask her to do that. She drove 2 hours down to see me. I'm so blessed to have so many of you, too many to people even mention, you know, and so I'm lucky. And look how many people have tuned in over the last, oh my God, nearly 2 hours. I'm so fortunate and blessed to have all of you, and thank you, Harps, for having me on your platform.
You're so welcome.
It means the world. It really does.
Anytime. Take care, darling. Enjoy the rest of the day. Hopefully the sun stays out.
Thank you for joining as well.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.